After I painted my favorite watercolor portrait, I felt very excited to see what other paintings I'd create next. Except 3 months have gone by and I've been doing everything but painting. It's not like I haven't come up with ideas. It's just that every idea I come up with feels too complicated, so I eventually let it go. This year, I've been on a mission to create original art. But going on Pinterest and simply picking out a reference photo to paint just doesn't feel original enough. So, in the meantime, I've been going on side quests until hopefully something clicks. After going to the maple sugaring farm, I had the idea to paint something from that time period. If you've been on this channel for a while, you'd be familiar with the many artworks I've made of people from the past. I went on Pinterest and found many vintage photographs of people knitting. I realize I'm drawn to this subject because so many people in my family knit and crochet. My grandmother knit and crocheted, my aunt crocheted me this bag, and my sister, who learned from my aunt, crocheted this elephant, which is one of the many stuffed animals that she's made. In my experience, creating is something that connects generations and can make a bond that will last forever. Okay, so here is how my sketch turned out, and I'm really happy with it, except this part kind of here looks very empty. In the original photograph, there was a bunny there. Instead of putting a bunny there, I found a basket of threads online, and I went to Photoshop and I put it in. So I'm going to try and fill this area in with that basket. Maybe I should make a painting combining both history and knitting. But what if I fail? Following this train of thought for the past 3 months has made me let countless art ideas go to waste. Instead, why don't we ask ourselves, what if it actually works out? My late grandfather was a huge supporter of my art. I remember how excited I was as a kid to visit my grandparents' house and show my grandfather my latest drawing. Seeing his positive reaction to my artwork and hearing his encouragement is to this day a core golden childhood memory of mine. Creating art was something that connected us, and although he passed many years ago, I believe it still does. When I paint or draw something I'm proud of, I think of him and of how proud he'd be of me too. Fun fact, in addition to drawing, my grandfather had a passion for photography and videography, and I'm actually filming this video on his camera. In this painting, I know I somehow want to convey this connection that creating art can bring throughout generations, which lasts beyond time. I chose these 2 reference photos from Pinterest. To bring my idea to life, I played around in Photoshop and mocked up several ideas until I settled on this one. Okay, so after I came back from a break, I'm taking a look at this painting, and something I do not like is that the background and this girl are painted in the same warm tone. And what that does is that it makes the girl kind of not stand out as much from the background. I think if I were to add another gray layer to the background, the girl would stand out much more and kind of it would bring her out of the picture and there would be depth. As you can see, there's a thread looping from the grandmother's creation to her granddaughter's, which looks like an infinity sign to show the connection they have from their shared love of knitting. I'm using tape to get this effect. This technique of using tape to add interesting elements to your painting is an idea I originally saw Kristen Voscourt use in her paintings. I've really enjoyed using this technique in my own paintings in the past. I used generative AI to create the picture frame in my reference photo. Doing this caused me some problems down the line, as you will soon see. Why are we so quick to dismiss ideas or not take risks just from asking ourselves, what if I fail? Perhaps part of the reason is that we are told to wait for perfect timing, taught that you need to plan perfectly for something to work out, or need the perfect space to start creating art. This subconscious way of thinking can keep you from even starting. Truth is, somehow a core reality of life is that nothing is perfect. Take a look at nature. You won't ever see perfect lines or exact replicas of anything. This is something I like to remind myself of. I'm creating videos from what is currently a storage closet. At this point, my art process, painting in there, started to become suffocating, and that's when I remembered about the outdoors. The weather is finally getting warmer, and with it brings many more opportunities to paint outside. I find that painting outside makes me focus so much better, to the point where I don't even need to turn on music in the background to keep me motivated. As I mentioned earlier, I AI generated the picture frame in my reference photo. The reason why it created problems for me is that the design on the picture frame that the AI made is totally asymmetrical for some reason. To solve this, I found this photo of a picture frame online, which is probably what the AI was inspired by. While painting in the frame, I looked at this picture instead. I used to have an art studio, which was actually a room in the basement. During the summer, it got very humid and hot down there, and I discovered mold growing behind the paintings I had hung on the wall. Even worse is that the mold had gotten through the back of the picture frames and started growing on the paintings. Thank goodness I caught it in time and was able to save all of them, but you can imagine how upset I was. I evacuated all of the art that was in that room, but little did I know that it was all for the better. This winter, a pipe burst, and that room flooded. The best part though, none of my paintings were in that room, so they didn't get damaged. This whole art studio saga really reminded me to be grateful for everything and that every moment is just a small piece of a greater story. Also, it made me fall in love with Yupo paper even more because the paintings that were painted on Yupo paper were more savable from the mold, and it was just easy to wipe the mold away from the back, as opposed to the other paintings that were painted on porous watercolor paper. Let me share with you a story that I heard recently that really resonated with me. It's actually about the unexpected way Spider-Man came to be. One day, Stanley's publisher told him to create a new superhero. So Stanley went home and thought about it, and he's like, what if I gave my superhero the powers to stick to walls and stuff just like a fly? What should I call him? Flyman? Nah, let's call him Spider-Man. And then he's like, I'm going to make this superhero a teenager, which wasn't really done at the time, and give him a backstory. So later at work, he goes to his publisher and presents him with Spider-Man. And what does his publisher tell him? That's a horrible idea. Stanley went home very disappointed, but he couldn't get Spider-Man out of his mind. So just for fun, he published Spider-Man in the last issue of a dying magazine because it doesn't really matter what's in the last issue of a dying magazine line. Then, a month later, the sales data came in and Stanley's publisher runs to him saying, "Remember Spider-Man, that superhero that we both loved? Let's do them as a series." Sometimes what can seem as the worst ideas to others are actually the most original. Who are you to judge whether your idea is good or not if you haven't even tried it out? It's delusional to think you'll fail when you haven't even given yourself a chance. Look, I can literally lift the paint off. I'm so glad I pushed through and finally brought my painting idea to life after 3 whole months of letting go of ideas because I was too afraid to try. I think this painting might be one of the most meaningful paintings I ever made. So next time you have an idea that you're unsure about, instead of asking yourself, what if I fail? Why don't you ask yourself, what if it actually works out?